I really don't know what anything means. Do you? Do you think you know what anything truly means? What does that mean? To truly know what something, anything, means. God, for instance, the big one. There's this term called igtheism, which I quite like, which posits that no one really knows what they're talking about when they're asking the question, does God exist? First of all, which God? And if it's a perennial God, the one true God, what is its nature? We all have different definitions. There are probably 8+ billion definitions of God. So I've never really subscribed to being a theist or an atheist. I think I am more of an igtheist. That I really don't know what someone means when they ask the question, do you believe in God? I think the closest I can come to understanding what God is beyond concepts, not something that can be defined, and that might be just the perfect word for that. God might be the perfect word precisely because it has no true definition. It's akin to the Tao, right? That any attempt to define it misses the mark. That which speaks of the Tao is not the eternal Tao, etc. So, I'm content with that. That's fine. Using a term like God to point towards that which we all feel to be beyond definition, ineffable, mysterious. But anything beyond that, I would balk at. I would be hesitant to label. Is it a personal God or impersonal? A God outside of the universe, or pantheistic, panentheistic even? Am I God, or a part of God, or in the dream of God, or dreaming I am not God? There's all of these different approaches to conceptualizing further that you can get lost in. And I think the point is that there is no real answer. It's the mind grasping and seeking and reaching to understand, for certainty, for safety. So if we can sit in the mystery of not really knowing what anything is, these terms like God, the divine, the sublime, the sacred, the numinous, the Tao, all of these kind of terms seem to point towards mystery itself. And I feel that that is potentially the most direct path to having a relationship with that ineffable something. Whether it's within or without, above, below, wherever and however and whatever it may be. It's a verb. I'm pretty sure it's a verb. It's not a noun, which makes it very difficult to grasp. The mind doesn't really like dealing with verbs. It prefers definitions and nouns, things it can hold, things it can assign properties to. But the true nature of all of this, I don't think we really can assign distinct properties to, other than a mystery experience is taking place. A mystery experience is taking place. And perhaps that's the only thing we can say for sure. The only thing we know to be, quote unquote, true. Capital T, true. Something's happening, and it's bloody mysterious. And of course, the mind wants to come in, and it wants to figure it out. And it wants to create a dogma around it. Why? Because I think there's something fundamental about what it means to be human. There's two driving factors here. One is that we are deeply uncomfortable with uncertainty. We really, really need to know. We need to find out what everything is at its bottom and top layer. We need to find out how it's going to behave and how we can predict that behavior. Why? Because that's how we've survived as a species. We've been very, very good at pattern recognition and predictive behavior. The other driving force here is our innate ability and our innate passion for, as a species, storytelling. We love to tell a good story. So what happens when you partner those two things together? When you partner the fear of uncertainty and the love of storytelling, you get dogma. You get descriptions. You even get something like science. Science is, and I bite my tongue to say this for my former self, is also a dogma. I would have winced at hearing my future self say that, but because we cannot understand or possibly observe what matter is outside of consciousness, no such thing, spoiler alert, there's no real way of establishing science as being anything other than just another way of looking at our experience, like storytelling through religion or whatnot. So it is just another dogma. Certainly it describes through a method how things behave, but it never really says what something truly is. Isness is fundamental to experience. And that is why I've said previously that illusions are the most true things there are, the most real things we can know. Because all of this, what's happening right now, me observing this forest and you observing me, that is the truest thing we can know. Whatever is arising in experience. The mind comes in and tries to pick that apart, either through science or some sort of storytelling, some kind of narrative. Tries to pick it all apart to figure out what's really going on. But what's really going on is just this. That's it. Just this. Whatever is arising in you, in me, what we feel with our direct connection to our immediate experience and presence. So we are left to the dark and the shadows and the unknown, the scary things. And we don't like it there, because in the past that meant lions and tigers and bears, oh my. It meant demons in the dark, either from the recesses of our own mind or strange things that our cultures and societies produce. Confrontations, dangerous dynamics, abuse, etc. We're afraid of the dark. We are drawn to the light. And so much religious and spiritual iconography symbolizes the light as safety and revelation and salvation, illumination and enlightenment. But what if What if it's the darkness that we find what we're looking for, in which we find what we're looking for? And what does that mean? It means to become comfortable with not knowing. It means to stand as that brave warrior before the unknown, to accept it, to surrender to it, to face it. I say surrender to it, but I think we both must also stand up to it. We must be stalwart and steadfast. We must stare it down like a demon in the shadows. We must not run from it. And maybe we'll see ourselves looking back. What's that quote? Stare long enough into the abyss and the abyss stares into you. Something like that. I guess I've arrived personally at this place through not being able to be dishonest with myself. And I think that comes from a lot of trauma, but I won't go into that for now. Always told that I was a liar, always told that what I believed or what I felt was wrong. And so I was always having this internal battle with myself over, do I really feel this or do I really think that? And so it's kind of amounted to this dynamic I have in myself where I don't know what I believe, and I'm very, very hesitant to attach myself to any belief at all. And so what's left is the truth that there is only mystery, that there is a wall to knowledge, to certainty, that is impassable for the human, at least. Who knows? Maybe things change after death. I don't know. But that not knowing is something that I think we'd all do well to become more comfortable with, rather than try to assert fairy tales about existence in order to comfort ourselves. And I'm not saying that fairy tales are inherently bad or wrong. I think they're important symbolisms for us to understand our experience and navigate our relationship to the world, the living world, as well as one another and ourselves. I am a storyteller myself, and I feel like the power of story is unlike any other for the human mind. It is a gateway to a deeper reality within ourselves. It's the labyrinth within. But both can be true. You can hold that truth of the importance of narrative and symbolism, but also not identify with it. And I think that's the distinction, isn't it? To not utterly devote yourself and dissolve yourself into an identification with what you believe, with fairy tales. And who knows, some fairy tales may be true. But that's kind of their point, that you can never truly know if they are. Otherwise they wouldn't be fairy tales anymore, right? There would be some sort of certainty there. And I think trying to find out if something is real or not is dangerous too. It is the slippery slope of science. We gut our connection through symbolism, to the living world, through science. We've gutted it. We've reduced everything down to its constituents that we can observe under a microscope. And we say, oh, this forest doesn't really have a spirit, as our ancestors once believed. It's just comprised of organisms in an ecosystem, whatever the hell that means. So when I say that our experience is true, it doesn't necessarily mean that our beliefs are. One could have an experience in a forest, have a deep feeling of communion with something, and then the mind comes in and labels that as the forest spirit, or God, or the nature spirits, or just terpene molecules from the pines in the air. Whatever it is, there is the mind coming in to try to analyze it and assess it and make sense of it. For me, it's been really difficult feeling one day one way and the next a different. It feels like being on a ship that's constantly heaving and swaying on immense, gargantuan waves that are completely disorienting. But by becoming rigid, by trying to always stabilize yourself on that turbulent ocean, you're probably only going to incur some kind of injury. So I'm learning to go with the flow and feel into one experience and the next, even though they contradict each other, especially if they contradict each other, because it's that contradiction that remains as the common ground. It remains as the commonality between everything, the uncertainty, the not knowing. And if I breathe into that, it frees my mind. It stops the incessant spiraling, snowballing thoughts that are trying to make sense of it all. It tells my nervous system that not knowing is safe, that it is okay to stand in the shadows, the one that is prepared for death is the one that remains alive. The one that stares down the demon in the dark is the one that can fight it. I'm really tired of running from that demon. And time and again, the only antidote to my panic and disorientation in life is to turn and face that demon, to draw my sword and embody the warrior. And that is a powerful and important symbol